Welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. This is episode 53. You're here with Jungle Brother Paul Photophilie, that's me, and Tiora Ward.
Hello.
Slight pause there, T. Joe is not here with us today.
Daydreaming.
Just T and I, the two most important JBs, the ones that you really want to hear. He's off in Sri Lanka on a retreat that he's running in a bit of a holiday. So he's getting some R&R when he gets back. We'll get him
Full of energy.
Yeah, full of energy.
Pumped.
Pumped.
Ready to conquer the world.
Yes.
Limber.
What have we got in the gym at the moment? We have
Meditated.
a few things. We have the mezzanine, which has been built since last year. The BJJ program has well and truly kicked off. We've got BJJ in here 6 days a week. The numbers are growing and the energy is growing also. The mezzanine mats arrived yesterday. Very exciting. Sorry, the wall mats, I should say. Wall mats, which were stuck in quarantine.
They had corona. Well, they didn't have corona, but they may have.
It was just a bit of a mess, I think, at customs and quarantine. So it was a bit
They're
late.
not letting everything in.
They're here now. They're going up.
Corona free.
Corona free. Sprayed them. And that's going to be amazing up there. It's going to open up the possibilities there for the sparring, as
we've got
the
our
striking, as well as the grappling.
And we had to get our all the logos put on the wall.
Correcto.
Wall mats.
That's
As
right.
well, so it took a little bit longer for that too.
Yes.
The lights have gone up.
Lights have gone up.
And then it's just like final touches now.
Yeah, it's nice. So come on down if you're interested with any of the things that we do here. Reach out to us at junglebrothers.com. We've got our Instagram, we've got our Facebook, etc. Outside of
Some
that...
good coaching going on there now. We've got 2 brown belts and a black belt
Correct.
to take all of our classes.
Correct. Yes.
Pretty impressive.
I know. I
Good
need
lineage.
Yes. Yeah, I need to get my schedule shifted so I can attend more of those. I'm watching
Full
everyone
evening schedule.
Yeah. There's been a few promotions lately. The other thing worth mentioning was the mental health. We're running a mental health... We're hosting, rather, a mental health response first aid course here. Our guy, Clint Hill, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago and has been on the podcast before, he's part of what's called the Rise Foundation. They build awareness.
Shout out to Benny.
Benny Higgs and the team. They're raising awareness for mental health issues, and they run these first aid courses. There's 2 levels of them. We got one running here late March. We're going to have, it's capped at 20 people and the spots are filling up quick.
Already got 10, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we'll fill it, but I thought just to mention, if there's any listeners out there that were interested in something like this, reach out to us and see if there's a spot available. You'll get a certificate of completion at the end, but it's just going to basically get you across all the issues related to mental health. And it gives you some tools to recognize someone who has a growing problem and also how to respond to that.
Yeah, or just going for a tough patch.
Tough patch. So,
You know?
yeah, so reach out and even if you don't get to one of those spots, then I would love to host those guys and just be a facility where they can run their courses here and people reach out to us, something like that. Get in touch. So outside of that, yeah, we're drinking Pandavore coffee from Pandavore Cafe down there at Pagewood. Thank you, Tree.
Thanks, Tree.
We are going to talk about our onboarding process,
Yep.
our screening process for new
Onboarding,
members.
meaning new members coming into the
New
gym.
members coming to the gym. But just before that, I thought we'd just
got
review other things that are happening in the gym at the moment.
Yeah. We've got a lot of new members coming in.
There's quite a
Really
few new faces.
Big influx, which we're more than capable of dealing with because we actually have 11 coaches on the floor now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
11 to 12.
We have a range of specialists, and those specialists are supported by a range of generalist coaches, and those coaches learn from the specialists and actually end up taking the best of all the different disciplines that are practiced in the gym, and they apply it to their own. Well, really, it's the Jungle Brothers approach, isn't it?
Yeah.
The generalist, the universal approach to training.
We suck all the good stuff out of those specialists.
Like the Borg out of Star Trek. I've said this before. Do you know what the Borg is?
No.
They're like a like a robot race,
Yeah,
and
you
they just
have
rock
mentioned
up
this.
on a planet, and then they just send out a signal saying, "We are the Borg. resistance is futile, prepared to be assimilated, and they just get in there and they suck all the knowledge out of that race, and then they implant them with nanobots, and then they just make the Borg even stronger with their knowledge and all their history, and that's great.
Do you visualize that?
Ultimate business model.
Do you visualize that?
Yeah.
We need to get a poster of the Borg up here.
Okay. Captain Picard actually became a Borg at one stage, so we'd have to get a picture of him with a Borg suit on.
You lost me already.
Mate, I'm fucking mad, Trekkie. I love it.
So do have a few new coaches. Dylan Butcher joined us.
Yeah, Nikki.
And Nikki Rubino come on through the internship. We're stoked to have them. They're really good people.
We have one more space left on our... do we have one more space?
I believe we do, yeah.
We got one young man coming from Ireland.
Ah, yes, we do.
As well.
Yep.
Fantastic.
That's cool.
Our second international interner. Isn't it? Second?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
second,
it is.
yeah?
Yeah, second.
Yeah, I think there's one more space left. So if you're interested, reach out to us. Let us know.
Yeah, very cool. What else is going on in the gym? I do know. I guess I just want to mention that there's just a lot of good energy. With the new faces, there's a new cycle of S&M going on that just kicked off this week. Did my microphone just drop out?
Yeah, you dropped out.
Can you hear me?
No.
How's that?
Oh, that's better.
Oh, yeah. New S&M cycle, strength and movement. It's one of our core programs, I guess, in the gym here.
S&M.
S, strength and movement.
Not
that one. No, but there's some
Could
new
be.
movements that we've played with in the past, but a lot of the new members are like, whoa, what the hell are we doing cartwheels and stuff for? Bit of rail balancing and stuff. And anyway, the numbers and the energy of the people just jumping straight into that's really cool. Last night, looking at the fight classes at the moment, I mean, they just keep going from strength to strength. I see everyone jumping in there, people who wouldn't be trying actual contact sparring and stuff like that, doing that, and everyone just a general good camaraderie in there.
Yeah.
Last night watching Brendan, who's 6 foot, probably 4, sparring with Noah Edwards, who's 14 years old, about 5 foot tall. It was really cool just watching those guys, drilling with each other and everyone mixing, girls, boys. It's just really cool at the moment. Besides the bodyweight program, which, I don't know, just right now the energy and the attendance level is really cool in the gym. And if there's gym members listening out there today, we're feeling it at the moment.
Good work, guys.
Yeah. And when the tide rises, all the boats rise. It's really cool.
Well, we've got a few... now that the space can accommodate it, there's a few more experienced practitioners coming into the gym, and I think with that they bring a level of quality to the partner work.
Yes,
They actually,
yeah.
they clean up other people's technique and give them a bit of feedback, and you get to watch someone in front of you that performs well, whether it's the jits or the kickboxing or someone doing a handstand, and it's one of the best ways to actually learn how to do something better because you can see it and then you mimic it,
Yes.
and then you get a little bit of feedback on the back of that, so it's great.
Are you talking yourself up in the sparring class
As
right
me
now?
being like the experienced one.
Yes, and everyone's looking towards you.
Oh, mate, last night I was kicking ass, bro.
Please.
I felt young again.
Please.
I was floating on clouds. I was tiptoeing. No one could touch me, bro.
That was also it was performance-enhancing drugs involved. Is that when you had the minor figures? Oh, no, that was this morning. You're like, what's this coffee latte drink that we have here? And that was this morning.
But no, it's been good energy.
Yeah, it has.
And I think the second level and being able to see into that, having a class underneath and a class up top working at the same time, and just, it's a very, very exciting visual. It's great. Love it.
Well, I guess we could segue into the topic for today, because for a new person listening or walking by the gym and looking in, all that energy is all very well and good for you and I who are already past that barrier of walking through the door. But for someone else, it might be, it's definitely intimidating.
Especially if I'm sparring up top.
Shit.
Fuck,
come now. But it's intimidating, whether it's the actual movements or that people are performing that you think that you might not be able to do or could never do,
Or the base.
or it's the the sub, the sub that we got. I don't even know how many inches that sub is,
monster.
but it's a box, and it could be the sub, or it's the group training thing,
Yeah.
and the fact that there's a lot of people in there.
Being around others.
Being around others isn't something that just comes easy to you. So can you tell us, T, kick off the chat, how would someone get in contact with us or get
This is all-
started?
Yeah, well, generally we have people reach out to us of all walks of life. So some are already practicing some form of discipline. Maybe some are competing, and then you've got everything from that to you got mums that have just come out of having babies, and then we've got someone's mum. We've got grandmums here.
Yep.
All walks of life, young teenagers. I think what they all have in common is that what they see in a gym like this is a little bit more like a longer term vision, where they're like, all right, well, I'm going to dedicate to some training, and I want to see some kind of result over a year, 2 years, 3 years, rather than we don't get a hell of a lot of people coming to us saying, I want to get fit and lose weight for my holiday, bikini diet or 8-week challenge, 12-week transformations or stuff like that. Most of our leads are like, okay, I have a bunch of goals here. Maybe I haven't been able to attain them somewhere else. Or I've seen stuff that you guys are doing and I want to try something different, a bit bored of what they're doing. And then once we touch base with these people, the first thing we do is get them into the gym, because we want them to have a little feel for the space, make sure that they've got more of an idea of what we do, so they know it's for them, because it's not for everyone. And then we sit down and we have a chat. We just have a good chat and we ask them a bunch of questions, and they'll work around obviously what they've come for, what their goals are. Then a bunch of other questions that they might not have answers for on the spot, like a simple question like, where do you see yourself on a training level, on a physical level, in say 5 years' time? What are you doing then that you can't do now? Are you still working at the same pace that you're working now? Are you still capable of doing what you're doing now in 5 years' time? And this is for a lot of people, is a tricky question. The way we ask it is, what are you going to be celebrating in 5 years' time? Like looking back now, let's say you had the perfect training routine, 5 days a week,
You join
good
the gym.
nutrition, everything's all right, sleep patterns are good. What are you celebrating? And that gets people really ticking over, because they're like, all right, well, there's potential for me to be doing something in 5 years' time that I can't do now.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times people don't relate that to their exercise. They think, okay, I've got to go and do the same things over and over and over again.
Yes.
And the goal is lose fat and tone up, which we both know are very short-term goals. And once you
Legit
achieve
goals.
those goals, then if you don't have anything else to work towards, you tend to coast and potentially get bored, or you try and do those goals again and they don't work as well. So what we try to do is introduce movement and people's physicality into a long-term relationship. So there's longevity in there.
It's funny, like going back to what you said about we don't get a lot of people who look for the short sprint challenges for a specific event. Like we still get people who ask for that for sure.
There's nothing wrong with a short-term goal. at
No,
all.
for sure. But it's true. I think a lot of people, I guess, we've been around for some years now. So what we put out that people see before they call up, our social media, etc., it really qualifies them as someone who wants to do that, but they want to do it in a different way or in a different environment.
Yeah.
So we don't get that many. We get a lot of people who want to go, have a more of a long-term journey. And I think of it sitting here about like the same as like when people join a karate dojo or something like that, they're looking to progress through belts and skill level over years. or say you want to start learning German or something like that. You're going in and you know it's a long process.
Piano.
And something like that. And I feel like when I think of conventional Globo gyms, it's not like a dojo in that sense.
No.
You're going in there for something that's not as wholesome. There's definitely not as much skill focus. It's like, I want to lose weight, and it's very goal oriented without, the process stuff like we spoke with Luke last week about goal versus process orientated training. And I feel like it's almost like people come in here now, and it's great for that sort of
that
journey, that longer term. And I think I believe that's a really good thing, based on what I believe and what I've done, and how I've seen people stay engaged in our gym and become long-term members.
Yeah,
because
they're getting results.
So and so down there,
Yeah.
she lost all that weight a long ass time ago, but she's still here.
Yeah.
And
what's bringing her in every day?
And she,
so it's
that
long-term goals that keep bringing you in. The mobility goals and the complexity goals, and even just shifting heavier weight goals, like without hurting, you know, with no pain associated with it.
So it's definitely, I think it's a sustainable and noble type of goal,
Yeah.
But
And I think over time that just turns into play.
it
And you
does.
just enjoy the training for what it is.
That's exactly right.
And you don't need motivational quotes to get up in the morning and, watch your favourite Insta people blending shakes and shit like that. You just enjoy it,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times that can... Actually, I was listening to something on the radio about some new kind of... It was not new. We've been aware of it for a long time. People suffering from like a mental illness that's caused by being so obsessed with exercise and gym and shape and body and all of that kind of stuff and nutrition, and it's directly relative to them posting pictures of themselves on Instagram.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's
for
actually
sure.
a name for it now with the whole thing combined.
Yes.
You got big morphia, and then you got anorexia, stuff like that comes also from image issues. I don't know enough about to talk about it confidently, but I was listening to psychologists talk about this new kind of form of illness in a way, or regression in mental health that's directly relative to being healthy, which is fucked up when you think about it. Something's gone seriously wrong there. It should never get to that stage,
Yeah, but it's tough to navigate these days because the game's kind of rigged against young folk or vulnerable folk who are on Instagram.
These are role models, and they're suffering inside, and you're looking at that as a place to go. They're your beacons, and you're walking into a trap, without even realizing it.
Yeah, it's also tough for us. I had a recent conversation I spoke to you about with a friend who works in marketing and stuff like that. And, we were just reviewing our own marketing, and it's difficult because I said it's hard for the consumer or the potential
We can get categorized in that.
Yeah, we could as well, so it's
Quite
hard
easily.
for them to when they're vulnerable to see things and not feel a certain way.
Differentiate the difference between us and that kind of fitness.
Well, you've got all the market play that's going on, and one particular health facility is trying to look cooler and represent themselves like, they get results, and then, you get in this competition of who, fitness models in your Instagram and in your gym, or you choose the best, most advanced athletes, and that's a little bit wrong too. And we're always fighting to try and truly represent what happens here and appeal to everyone. So it's kind of a balance between, showing people that all levels are welcome and do train here, and you don't have to have, years of experience to walk through our doors, and also provide some aspirational stuff as well, and show some people doing some cool stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard little thing to get right.
Yes, I hear. So we'll move into our foundation workshop. We've got, once we get a member through the door, we sit down, we have a chat with them.
Yep.
And then if they want to proceed with us and join our gym, then we move into what we call foundation workshop. And this is 3 one-to-one sessions. And they're literally one-to-one coaching. Sometimes people are like, oh, why can't I just get straight on the floor? But there's a reason for it. And the first reason is we want people to be on the floor and be safe, first and foremost. So we have a very low injury rate in comparison to other gyms. And the reason why is because we bring a big focus onto where people are already injured and also their potential red flags of that something, finding something that might be the case of an injury before it actually happens.
Mm.
So,
Absolutely. So, yes, the first session will be a screening process.
Yeah.
Take us through the process.
So after that, we've got our screen, which is the way we take somebody, we run them through a screen that analyzes where they're tight and where they're weak. That's what we're looking for anyway, tightness and weakness. So if you're, and we test literally every joint in the body, from ankles to your knuckles, wrists, spine, knees, hips, the whole bit. And what we're looking for are differences between left and right, front to back, top to bottom, that kind of stuff. So let's say you had a previous ankle injury in high school and you never quite rehabilitated it, and that ankle's showing a limited amount of range compared to the other. That ankle can move through a greater range of motion or less range of motion or whatever's happened to that ankle in comparison to its counterpart, and now we have a difference. And these differences in the body, whether it's hips, ankles, shoulders, scaps, can create problems with somebody's mechanics, the way that they execute movement patterns. So if we can get onto those early, find out what they are, and bring them to that person's attention, then it means their chances for injury, just from recognizing the problem in the first place, start to drop. Yeah.
Do you also screen movement patterns, like all of those joints integrated into?
Yeah, and we screen whole patterns. We screen the joints separately, and then we have a look at some basic compound patterns as well.
And this is all in the first session. And on the back of what you find, what do you do with that information?
So
I'm interviewing you now.
Well, the test is designed to find imbalance. And once we found it, if we find it, then the idea is to act on the results.
Yeah.
I used to, many moons ago, when I was working at Fitness First, and they tried to reinvent their whole system. This is when they were losing a shitload of money, and they brought in some fancy marketing team to restructure the whole like every Fitness First across the globe.
Yeah.
They spent millions on speaking to members, speaking to people in the public, speaking to other marketing managers and sales and everything else. And one thing they didn't speak to, or one group of people they didn't speak to, were their personal trainers, which are the people that are on the floor every day, having direct contact with their members, and obviously at the forefront of exercise, because that's what they do, and that's what their interests are. They didn't ask them anything. I was one of them at the time. When I asked them why they bothered spending so much money on trying to find out what was wrong with their business, and failed to ask their staff, which was a bit mind-boggling at the time. But anyway, they implemented a screening test for every member that came through the gym. And then they taught us this test, and it was designed by some fancy Pilates / chiro, physio, whatever
Was it?
Yeah, it was one of them.
Was it big? Was it a long one?
It was a big one. It was a long one. It had a whole bunch of different patterns with a Viper, and then a bar pattern, and then some skill testing work, and then even some energy system tests, and the whole bit. And then we ran through it, and it was really concise, and you got scores out of everything. And then I said to them, okay, so once this test is finished, what then? Like, what do we do with the results of that test? And no one had an answer. Mm-hmm. There was actually no action to be taken off the back of that. And they were like, well, that's up to you as a trainer. I'm like, if it was up to me as a trainer, I wouldn't run this test. Because if someone's coming to me and they want to build a bigger chest, which is what most people in Fitness First want to do, I'm not going to get them on a fucking rower and test how quickly they can do, a fucking 2,000 meter roll, whatever it was. But anyway, when you test for something, then the idea is to take action on that test. It's like taking a car to a mechanic. They work on wheel alignment. They tell you wheels are misaligned, maybe chassis is a bit bent or whatever.
And then they just push you on your way.
then they're like, oh, mate. Yeah, well, that's right. That's what. Now get out there and race your car in a racetrack.
But at least you know that your brakes are faulty. Yeah. But you know now.
Yeah.
No, okay.
So what we do is we provide our members with a bunch of prehabilitative work that they do before class. Not all of them do it. The ones that don't do it end up getting punished for it further down the track. Even when we keep trying to, we lead a horse to water, yeah? But majority of our members do, and the ones that do, it pays off for them. So what we do is give them a bunch of exercises that they can do off the back of that are directly relative to the imbalances that they have in their body. So those patterns need to be applied to the imbalance at hand, and they don't do them equally on both sides. They give the side that's underperforming more attention, because what we want to do is shrink the distance between this imbalance. We don't want the imbalance to stay the same and for both sides to be progressing at the same time. So it's very important to make sure that they're firstly aware of these issues. The other thing is if you're targeting areas that are excessively tight before you train and the tissue's fibrotic and dehydrated, then by targeting that area before you start to train, you're hydrating it, pushing blood into it, you're giving it more of an elastic property, and then anything that's weak, then you're stimulating it, getting the nervous system in that area to get active before you start training. So again, even that short-term process can mitigate your chances of injury, but over the long term, we want to get the areas that have been weakened over time or injured over time to not just get back to their original strength, because it obviously wasn't strong enough in the first place for a lot of these issues. We want to get it stronger than it was before, and that takes an hour. So we probably spend about half an hour to 40 minutes on testing. We also test their strength tests, mobility tests, a few coordinated tests, but the ones that are coordination based are just looking at the way we stabilize before we mobilize, how we're stabilizing we do like a quadrupedal gait pattern. And then off the back of that, a whole bunch of pre-ab exercises.
I would say I really like the screens that we have. I would say some of them as well are really cool because over the years, we've made it tighter and tighter and try to make it as relevant and directly relevant to what we do specifically here. And I like some of the tests because some of the tests, like you could say, the positions have already been measured in another portion of the test earlier in an isolated fashion, but they relate also to the movements that we do in here. Like,
that's right.
Say the toe touch, for instance, and that helps us, with moving into the body weight program. Whereas you could say that maybe we already measured that in another leg raise test or something like that. It works really well. I should also mention in the hour before all of the screening is done, there's the initial questionnaire, and the questionnaire is getting to know you, your movement history, whether there is something you did, if you're a lot older, what did you do when you were back at school, because they're definitely factors. your injuries, your past injuries, anything like that. We go through your basic nutrition and your perception of your own flexibility or your strength, etc. And then, I think the last section is just about your goals and why you're there. And then it moves into the screen. And I feel like that first session is such a winner, that one. And it really comes down also to the coaching skills. Because, the system is only kind of as good as the coach who can interpret it.
Yeah.
And I haven't been doing a lot of screens lately. But with Joel Way, I've done a couple of screens, and I really enjoy, meeting new people and going through that first get to know you phase. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm not trying to blow my own skirt up, but it was just really cool to interpret it and put the pieces together. And then when you
like a blueprint.
Yeah, and then when you come out, when you start doing the screen, like things really start to add up. You know that they've had this sporting history, so they're kind of athletic. And that these are their goals here, and then it matches up with screen and what comes out in the corrective exercises at the end, and how you prescribe them to them. I just think there's something there that comes down to the coaches as well, and how well they put all the pieces of the puzzle together and prescribe that to that particular individual.
Yeah, and it is a puzzle.
Yeah,
I had a really interesting screen actually a couple of weeks ago. I had a woman come in that's just had a bubby. It's 2 years old now, but she had some time off training. She has, her spine has a really strong curve in the lower back, so it moves into like a lordosis. Mm-hmm. And she's had it since she was born. And after she had the baby, I think she had a sore back, and she went to physio and then went through the whole process of seeing specialists. And each one that she approached said the same thing. They said, look, you can't lift heavy loads or do any kind of high intensity movements with your body. So just stay away from that kind of stuff, which I found when she told me that. And I was like, okay, well, what's your training history? Because she came back with the perfect screen. And this is where this is difference between screening movement and screening a static posture. So her body, if you look at it, and if you have her just standing there and you look at the height of the shoulders and the shape of the spine and everything like that, everything looks slightly out. But then when you watch her perform, all of her technique was almost perfect. Very strong, great range of motion. She was actually an ex-gymnast, so she was competing at a national level. And we're talking like, tumbling, bar work, some crazy stuff. Like the phenomenal athletes, even at a state level, let alone national level. And her body had found a way over time of finding balance with maybe not the most perfect mechanical structure or bone structure. So certain areas had thicker, stronger muscle than others, and other areas were longer. It wasn't that symmetrical shape that you'd get, that you're looking for or you're trying to attain from a standard screen, but her body had found balance its own way. And she'd gotten to a very high level of athleticism. Then all of a sudden she has a baby, she gets a postural screen, and that practitioner tells her that she's not capable of doing anything physical even at a moderate or low level, which was just like, I was quite shocked actually when she told me that. And then we talked about what she was actually capable of doing as an athlete, and then we tested her and what she was capable of doing at the screen, and now watching her perform in the gym. And I said, you know what, it's up to you how you interpret the knowledge that you get, but as far as I'm concerned, you're more capable than the majority of the people in this gym, and we have a lot of capable humans here, potentially. And just because you have a baby doesn't mean that all of a sudden you become an invalid because you have a curve in your spine that you've had since birth, and you're performing on a high level at that younger age. So every single screen that you run, that backstory and history is so important.
So important.
And then to see people move is so important in comparison to just looking at someone standing there, and which is what you get in your standard Cert 4, where
Yep.
you do a postural analysis, and all you're looking at is a static picture. It's like looking at a picture of a boxing fight and analysing the posture of those boxers and where their hands are holding, but never actually seeing
Them throw
them
down.
fight. And it's like, well, you can't get an idea of what that activity actually is from a photo. You've got to see it in action, you know?
It's interesting because because there's clues in there in the posture for sure.
Totally, yeah.
And for a lot of young personal trainers, you know, it's a starting point for them. It just made me think of
And
what...
there's nothing wrong with
No.
like a static postural analysis.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it must be... And look, Jared, our ART specialist, does it. Funny does one as well. And she's a stretch therapist. But they also get
Yes.
in there and they're moving the body.
Well, that's what she said last
tactile
week,
with them.
which is fun. Is kind of what you were saying. It reminded me. She was saying that she can tell. She looks, and when you have someone moving, like she can draw a lot from it. And I guess that comes from years of experience, years of her own personal training, and exposing herself to different modalities of training as well. She's something that, like you said, you're like, something's not quite right, or also something is right. Like she looks completely controlled through the pelvis. There's absolute confidence with her putting weight over her wrist in that kind of position. Like there's I guess it comes with experience as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
And I think at the screen we have the framework, but I would say you do similar. You often will move off the framework as well, depending on the individual.
On the individual, yeah, for sure. And some areas you need to look a bit delve a little
that's
deeper
right.
into, and others you're like, okay, you've got a clean bill of health. But I mean, at the end of the day, they just need to be in a position where they're balanced enough to get into a class environment, and
They're aware of their
Yes.
weak spots and imbalances, and they've got a few tools
yes,
to get started on those.
yeah, that's right.
Should we? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
That's about right. Well, maybe we go on to session 2 of 3 in your foundation program. Tell us what you do there.
So we got our introduction to the body weight system, and that runs on a mastery system where we're just looking at rather than increasing weight, we increase and we've talked about this before on previous podcasts.
Yeah.
An increase in movement complexity and intensity of those patterns. But the main thing that we try to get over in this hour, and we do, is just firstly we explain why everyone starts at the beginning, and that is because our Roots program is designed to sniff out any weaknesses again in the way people move. So it's one thing testing without load, but then once we put a little bit of load into that, it's going to expose more.
Add a little volume.
Yeah, a little bit of volume, and that's going to expose even more weakness again, and then we clean all that. So it's basically the first 5 or 6 progressions in our body weight system is just designed to get our fixators and our stabilizers stronger and more incorporated into their patterns, to prime the body into utilizing more fibers, so recruiting more fibers for particular movement patterns where, let's say, for a lot of the first progressions, you don't have to execute a relatively good pattern, but getting people into the habit in using certain parts of their body a certain way, like your glutes for stabilizers, for instance, which a lot of people aren't used to doing, moving their scapula through full range of motion, which again, most people aren't used to doing. Firstly, makes sure that they get an idea of expectations when it comes to the quality that we want people to show us through these patterns, and this continues throughout the program. So we want a high level of movement quality, and then the second is to understand full range of motion and then build strength through full range of motion, and then prime stabilizers.
Spot on. Yeah, there's a few extra things that they learn in that hour as well. There's the how to work with language, absolutely. So it's body awareness and, the names of some of the parts of your body and whatnot. And then it's learning. I mean, what you're talking about is we're teaching them how to move well in some fundamental patterns that we have in the program. And then being able to recognize, be able to see someone doing them and then spot a partner as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you're passionate about that.
Well, we use a lot of tactile feedback, which scares people sometimes, and that's just getting finger and poking
or a bent
pushing
finger
and pushing, or a fist,
or a back
and
of
just
a hand.
pushing it into certain areas that might be underperforming, but also bringing awareness to where people they might have picked up a bunch of bad habits from previous training journeys. And to undo those habits, just to firstly make them aware of it. So when they do train, because all the bodyweight classes are work in a partner system, that they can let their partner know the areas that are underperforming for them. The body has a really good way of hiding poor motor mechanics, where you feel like you're in a position and you're actually not. And it's not until somebody can come up and correct you, which is what the coaches do. Or your partner spots it and they might just kind of push into a certain muscle with their finger. They don't do any manipulation or corrective work. That's all up to the coach. But they keep each other accountable and police each other's technique. And I think when you're doing that to somebody else, then when your set comes around, then you're a lot more aware of expressing the same level of quality when you do your set too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a standard setter and an introduction to the system. And then our last one is an introduction to the barbell and kettlebell, which most people have already had a play with. But again...
But not everyone.
Not everyone, but again, it's a screen. So we're looking at the way someone squats, how we can make that pattern better, how they deadlift, how they overhead press. They're all compound exercises that most people have had some kind of experience with.
I don't know about most people.
A lot of people. Most people
50-50.
have done a pump class or done a bit of fitness thirsting.
Yeah. So they've done it, but I guess
they haven't done.
They don't have experience.
Well.
That's what I guess that's right. Yeah.
So it is cleaning form with those ones. And to be honest, sometimes that's the hardest session because people hold on to bad habits, and undoing a bad habit is much harder than teaching to someone from scratch. Because those patterns are like ingrained. So we spend quite a bit of time on some individuals, and others rip through it because they've already been working in that area before. But the main thing with the barbell is that it's once they hit the floor, it's safe. The technique doesn't have to be perfect because once again, that's an endeavour that you can last you a lifetime. You look at Olympic lifters and power lifters and all that kind of stuff, but it just has to be safe. And then the next, however many years they're going to be training, they're refining.
Yeah, that's right.
They're correcting. They're getting feedback from other coaches, and each coach has a certain way of communicating, and some communicators resonate with individuals better than others. And you take information from each, and then you apply it to your own practice, and that's kind of how it works.
It's like the Borgs.
Yeah, you can be a Borg inside our gym.
You just suck all the knowledge out of our coaches.
And that's
go train in your home gym.
Do the foundation, never come back again. But the idea there is once we've finished your foundation, then we have coaches development every Thursday, and then we have our new member bio, and we talk about you. So we talk about when you like to train, what your training history is, injuries, previous injuries, correctives that you're working on, what to watch out for, what you shouldn't be doing in class, what you can be doing instead of, and then all the background knowledge that they can get. So when they meet you, or if it's one of and if sooner or later you're going to come into contact with one of these, probably all of these coaches after a certain amount of time, they already know about you. They know how to look after you. you're safe in class, and you also have the knowledge necessary to not feel intimidated about the language that we're using and not feeling lost in class, and you can just hit the ground running.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I guess going all the way back to when you said, people come in and be like, why do I need to do, the screen kind of just goes straight into class. Can I avoid the foundation program? And remember...
Short answer is no.
The short answer is no. But remember a very, very long time ago, we didn't have one at all. And... we just started the gym, and it was like, we were doing whatever we could, trying to figure out how to do this thing called small business, etc., and building a community. But, we quickly noticed that, obviously...
It's a mess.
It was a bit of a mess, and at the end of the day, it is group training, and our methods, there's things in the class that you can be better prepared for before getting thrown in. And I guess what we found was that it was... definitely a responsibility of ours to send people through. We used to have like the shortened foundation program.
Yeah, we always had something,
but it wasn't as thorough.
No,
and we
just
found
got
that
more and more concise over time.
That's right. So two things is the responsibility to the individual to keep them safe. Secondly was give them the best chance to thrive, because we also had people coming through. It's just there's a fair bit of information, and if you're completely new to it, then it's harder to get paddling. When you're trying to take on so much information at the beginning. So a lot of it is learning the things that are to do with training, and then also learning our method at the same time. So we're prepping you, so when you get in the class, you're like, okay, I went through this with Tiora, and I can get into it and kind of somewhat understand where this is all leading towards.
Yeah, that's right. You're not flying blind.
Correct.
And I think it's grown over time because of necessity. We're constantly reviewing our systems, and we run a certain system, review it, see what comes of it, and I just think over time it's just it's evolved. It's had to get more and more concise, more detailed, because the programming and what we teach in here is also evolving as well. So the screen needed to evolve with it.
So true.
Yeah. So it went from one small, I think it was like a half hour or an hour small group to 3 one-to-one sessions, which sounds a bit extravagant, but once you do it, you realise that all of the stuff that we go over it's necessary, especially once you hit the floor.
Occasionally we'll do group sessions, group foundation programs.
Yeah, when there's a group of people that want to do it together, or we get like a really big influx and we get a couple of coaches in doing that at the same time, and we just we don't necessarily drop the quality. We just add more staff to the process, and we do that with everything in the gym. We don't want to scare people off. And if someone feels more comfortable, doing something like that with another, then that's fine too.
Yeah, totally. We get like the couples that come in, and they don't want to do it. They want to do it together, or the brother-sister combo and that sort of thing. So I guess that's like with any gym. There's a bit of flexibility in there to try and make it work for the individuals.
That's it. Yeah, and after that, we'll sit down with that individual and revisit their goals. And then because we have diversity in our class structure, we talk about a strategy coming into training. And if you're new to training, the strategy is going to be very different in comparison to somebody who's training up for something specific, which is going to be very different to someone who's working for themselves or time poor, which again is going to be different to someone who just wants to get better at jiu-jitsu. And the idea with helping somebody block out their training week is to firstly make sure it's achievable. So you're not saying, I'm going to train 6 days a week and you've only got a couple of hours a day or a week free to train at that stage. What we want to make sure is that firstly, the easy goals to hit. For some people, it's just getting through the front door whenever you can on those days, or whatever class it is. And for others, it's like you need to stay away from these classes for the first couple of months until you get stronger in these areas, and then start to integrate those classes into your, and this might be like, spending more time in body weight and less time, or staying away from jiu-jitsu for a month or two till you build a nice strong base.
Mm-hmm.
And then for others, it's like they really love to lift. So we obviously allow them to celebrate their strengths, but acknowledge the weaknesses. So maybe they struggle with a certain range of motion, and then we promote them to do more stretch class or more bodyweight class to accessorize their primary classes, which is the lifting.
Every single person is an individual, I guess is the case. Like, there's no one formula. It's really finding out what that individual needs before they jump into the group.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just like, I'm just going to come in and turn up, and whatever class is running, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of the people in the gym. They're just like, I just love, having that choice. And
but people are busy as well.
Yeah.
So it's like they just have a time to come in. Maybe they're on shift work. They just walk in, and it's a surprise to them.
Yeah.
That sounds like how it would be for me if I was a gym member. I love it when they come in like, what class is this? It's like, bang. Oh, okay, I'm grappling.
Yeah.
Whoops.
And the gym is open all day anyway. So even if there's something specific that someone wants to work on, they'll approach one of our coaches that they gel with, or someone that's specialist in certain areas, and they can build them programming that accommodates their class training, and works in conjunction with it. And then again, that gets put into their approach and their strategy towards their class formats.
Yeah, I guess it's definitely worth mentioning as well that at the end of your foundation program, that's usually the time where it's like you decide whether you want to join the gym or not. You also have the options of personal training and stuff like that as well. And a lot of people who are just coming back or new to training or whatever might still not feel that confident to jump in, and they, it's all on the table for them, whether they want to do a little bit of personal training for 4 weeks or for whatever it is until they build a certain base / confidence to join the group. Or it's, I'll join the gym, but I would like to maintain one PT with you, check in to continue, whatever I find in class or whatever specific they need to work on, say their correctives. Can you work with me on a once a week basis to get that to level up while I'm testing out the classes and stuff like that? So there's all those two, and we absolutely recommend that for some people as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get through the screen, and they know that you get through the screen, and it's not that the screen's tough, but if it exposes a lot of poor mechanics, just all over, and there's certain things in there that you struggle with that you shouldn't be struggling with, real simple stuff, then it's a big eye opener for some people. They're like, oh, you know what? If I'm struggling to get through something that should be very minor and easy, I definitely need a softer approach and a bit more of a ramp to get into classes. And I think it's very important they go through that process, because in any other scenario, you get chucked straight on the floor and you find out the hard way and you get punished for it. Because at the time, the body's very good at just going, right, you're in the moment, I'm going to pump you full of adrenaline. You're not going to feel a thing. You're just going to try and keep up with the person next to you who's been training for bloody 10 years or whatever. And then you go home and all of a sudden you're in a whole lot of hurt in all the wrong areas. So to avoid that situation as well.
I must say, having done a few screens this week, I really love the process. I think it's so cool because I've always been a people person. I love meeting new people and whatnot, and it's cool. Like, we get to deliver our product that we've been working very hard for over many years. So it's really cool and something that's close to our heart. And you have someone here who is in need, and we feel like we have the solution, or we can offer them help here. And then you get to sit back and get to know that person, and I love that whole process. Plus, it's so interesting for me to see how see how people turn out. And I find like it never ceases to surprise me, what we get out of a screen, because people they're just different. And I love that. Like you have that person that you're talking about might screen really low. There's a bunch of weaknesses, etc. But that person has this personality that is really jovial, and they're like, oh, okay, oh, that sucks, but I'm so keen to get into class. And then you have the other people who would send them in the opposite direction. Yeah. And then you have the people who screen really well, but they have a certain lack of confidence in the whole process. And it's just, it's cool. And I like to identify those bits and pieces and, try to arm them with not just the exercises, but like how to approach, starting. You know what I mean? Because everyone's it's a little different. If I just gave them the exercises and went off the paper, I'm not giving them the best chance to thrive.
No.
And I just find that a really cool little thing to do.
I think it's also important, being like the owner of a gym, to know your members. You know what I mean? Like meet them. Because I think for a lot of spaces, when they start to get to a certain size, the owner wants to step away from being on the front line and meeting these people and work on growing the business and not in the business and all the bullshit that these fucking ads feed you every fucking week. But these are, the old internet online make $1 billion kind of crap. But at the end of the day, you got to remember why you became a coach in the first place. And all right, well, we're all about that physical contact and just having relationships with people that are putting food on your table is really important, So understanding your members, getting to know them, and then most importantly, knowing how they move, knowing how they work, knowing what their barriers are, and being familiar with all of that so you can help them achieve their goals is paramount, because at the end of the day, that's what they're here for. They've come for results. And if you can't give them that, then they're going to end up going somewhere else, no matter how cool the environment is and how many friends they have there. If they stop making progress, then people are going to go elsewhere,
Mm-hmm. So that's it. Like in summary, we have a foundation program. It consists of 3 one-on-one 60-minute sessions with one of the head coaches here. We screen you, we check out your history, we get to know you, we give you some corrective exercises off the back of that first session and what we find in the screen. Session 2, we introduce you to the bodyweight program and all things involved there, body awareness, some language, how it works. Session 3, shifting external objects, mainly the barbell and kettlebells, and from there you basically get all the principles that you can carry to lift odd objects as well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it, right?
Yeah, and then strategy on how you're going to space out your week and utilize the classes at the best way you can, and then we follow up.
So through coaches development.
Yeah, coaches development, and then obviously plenty of feedback along that time. So chatting on the floor. Phone calls, ring them up, see how they're going, all that kind of jazz. So
they're in the 1 to 6 week column on the retention board.
Yeah. So there's plenty of support the whole way through.
Very cool.
Till you're flying. That's it, really.
Yeah. Reach out.
Yeah, if it's something you're interested in and you're finding that stepping foot into a gym feels a little bit intimidating for you, then come and have a chat with us. We can help you with that.
And if you're really, really, it sounds intriguing, but you're thinking, it's not the right time to become a member, or I don't know about the commitment, just do the foundation program. It's like, just treat it as like a workshop thing.
Yeah.
You learn quite a bit in that.
And there's no obligation to sign up as a member.
That's
we actually
correct.
prefer it if you do the foundation first, so that way you know for sure you're in the right place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and
gives you a chance to try us out.
You can decide at the end
to a membership. Yeah,
correcto. And if you're a spy, like a Borg or something like that, you can come on in, learn a bit about our system, and then you can go too, because the knowledge is there to share.
That's it. Yeah, well, we've just taken it from someone else, haven't we? the end of the day.
What works?
It's all about
Yeah.
sharing.
Correcto.
Yeah.
Shall we wrap it up there then?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Any final mentions? I mentioned the Mez and our wall mats arriving. They're going to go up. The BJJ is 6 days a week here, and that's kicking off, and the energy is growing there, as well as it is in all of our programs at the moment. We also had the mental health response first aid course coming up. If you're interested, just get in contact.
We had a couple of members get some stripes there.
We had a couple of members get some stripes off the top of my head. Obviously, we got Nate who got his brown belt. Shout outs. There was Lucy.
Lucy got a
Lucy
stripe.
got a stripe. That's all I can remember off the top of my three
Was
kids.
it
Dad brain.
Beck got a stripe.
True.
Beck got a stripe.
Probably.
Yeah.
She deserves it.
Yeah.
She's been grinding away there. Comes in, mother of twins. It's just
Killing it.
savage. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, thanks again to Tree for the coffee. Delicious coffee there at Panavore down at Pagewood. Go check him out. And yeah, until next time, that's the Jungle Brothers duo, the ones
Thank
you
you.
really want to see,
Oh.
signing off.
Okay, bye.
Bye.